Good evening. Welcome, everyone. This is our July 2018 board meeting. Tonight's also the opening of the Franklin County Fair and Horse Show. And this is the first year that the new Frankfort on Tap drinking fountain and pet bowl will be available at the fair. So I just want to plug Frankfort on Tap. So I'm Anna Marie Pavlik-Rosen, Chair of the Frankfort Plant Board. To my right is Walt Baldwin, Vice Chair. Member Dawn Hale, Member Ralph Ludwig, Member Steve Mason, and the Attorney for the Board, James Liebman. So we have a couple of changes to the agenda for tonight. Our first item, teleconference with John Tedesco, Tedesco Associates, has been moved till 6:30, and that will be a closed session. And our update from Vermont Energy Investment Corporation has been moved to item 2. So we'll start with consider approving minutes from the June 7th, 2018 special board meeting and the June 19th, 2018 board meeting and the June 25th, 2018 special board meeting. Board do you have a chance to look at the minutes? Is there a motion to approve?
I did my duty and read them, and they look good to me. I would move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Dawn. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the 3 minutes submitted, in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. I'd now like to introduce from Vermont Energy Investment Corporation our 2 consultants who will give a presentation tonight on the study that they've been doing on energy efficiency. We did have a program last night at the library for the public to make comments, and certainly people can make comments again tonight. We'll have open comments after their presentation. So this is Juliette Gilliard and Joanne Bachman, who are here to take us through the report so far.
Right, thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. A quick introduction to the project team. Again, I'm Juliette Gilliard. I work as the primary contact on this project and project manager. Joanne Bachman is here as well. She's our program design lead. You met Carrie Hoover at the May board meeting. She was here with me to do some stakeholder interviews. And Sean Clement is also another key team member that we are working with on this project. He's our municipal utility program implementation lead. So a quick recap of what we're doing here. The Frankfort Plant Board hired us to design an energy efficiency program plan with input from the community. And at this point, we're about halfway through the project. We kicked off the project in mid-April. In May, we were here to conduct stakeholder interviews and to present at the board meeting. At this point, we have conducted further community outreach through a presentation to the community last night and presenting to the board meeting tonight. And then we are aiming to have a final report of recommendations for the September board meeting. So in May, we interviewed about 42 people from the community. That included FPB board members and staff, residential representative, including representative from low-income programs and neighborhood associations, some local churches and residents. We also talked to representatives from the institutional and government agencies and customers that represent government interest and institutional interest, such as the city and county government, state facilities managers, state energy office, the county schools, and KSU. We talked to business representatives as well and industrial representatives. So we have tried to get input from every major customer group in town. So what we heard was very diverse, and we heard a lot of different information. But to sum it up, On the residential side, we heard a recognition that energy costs, energy rates are low, but energy bills are high, and that customers feel some uncertainty about the future of energy bills. About half the homes in town heat with natural gas, half with electricity, so that's something to consider in the program design. Half of the households in town are renters, and most of the renters are not student renters. Most of the homes in town are single family, but there's a desire to be careful that the energy efficiency program will not lead to an increase in rent. There are also a lot of historical buildings in town, and that needs to be taken into account. And there has been little residential growth in Frankfort. On the residential low-income or fixed-income side, we have heard that there's a large population in town that is on fixed income, and there's a strong interest in the community to be able to support vulnerable populations, such as low-income and fixed income. Some residents struggle to pay their energy bills, and often new tenants do not realize how much their energy bills are going to be until they have spent their first winter in their new rental apartment, when they realize how much it's going to cost. And they also do not realize that they have the ability to call the electric utility or the gas utility to ask what the historical energy consumption was. We have identified several key local partners that would be helpful in implementing energy efficiency, and that already work with the low-income or vulnerable population in town. This includes the Bluegrass Community Action Partnership, the Housing Authority of Frankfort, the Kentucky Housing Corporation, and local churches have also programs that serve the vulnerable population in town. On the commercial, institutional, and industrial side, we have heard that many of the downtown businesses are small and rent their location rather than owning it. And many of those locations downtown are historical, which adds a layer of complication for upgrading buildings. We have heard that there has been a temporary reduction in downtown traffic in terms of people traffic due to the demolition of the tower and the convention center. And we also learned that there are several large industrial manufacturers within FPB's territory. And those larger industrial customers are very aware of the benefits of energy efficiency as a tool to remain very competitive in the marketplace. On the institutional side, we have learned that KSU has a very old infrastructure, and there would be a lot of opportunities there to upgrade their lighting and heating, ventilation, and cooling infrastructure. They have done some upgrades, but there's still a lot that remains. The county and city schools similarly have done some work, but there are also a lot of opportunities that remain here to do energy efficiency. They are building a new elementary school, so their ability to bond to do this energy efficiency work might be limited. The state government is the largest employer in town, as you probably all know. But the maintenance staff for this government facility buildings, the maintenance staff is very understaffed, so they have limited resources to take on energy efficiency at this point, and would benefit from some technical assistance to do those projects. Any new state building needs to be LEED certified, but this does not apply to any new long-term lease that the state would get into. They have done upgrades to their lighting and lighting controls, but there's still a lot of opportunities that remain again here. For the local government, we heard that the street lights are getting upgraded to LEDs, and that's something that FPB is working with the city and the county to upgrade. At the current pace, it would take about 10 years to do those upgrades. So there might be an opportunity to increase that pace of replacement. There are also a lot of historical buildings in town that are lit at night and probably all night long. So there would be some opportunities here to upgrade to more efficient lighting. A lot of those buildings are privately owned, so there would be a need for a program that would be available to those private owners as well. We heard that the county jail needs to have a lot of upgrades that is pretty antiquated. So that would be a good customer to work with in terms of doing energy efficiency. And there are some plans to have both new and upgraded sewage plants, both at the county and the city level. And sewage plants are usually really large energy users at the municipal level. So there are other efforts in Frankfurt that are currently in place or historically have taken place that are aligned with the goals of an energy efficiency plan. This includes Lighten Up Frankfort. The State Energy Office has programs that could be that FPB could partner with, especially the NEED school education program. Some of the other programs are ending at the end of this year, but the school education program remains. There's EPAD that is available in Frankfurt, but at this point not in Franklin County. Again, the Bluegrass Community Action Partnership could be a good partner for low-income programs, as well as the Kentucky Housing Corporation, the Housing Authority of Frankfurt. And Vision Franklin County also has has goals that is aligned with energy efficiency. So all those current programs might be good to keep in mind for partnership for energy efficiency. So far I've talked about what we heard from the community, but there are other constraints that need to be taken into account to develop an energy efficiency plan, and that may limit what can actually be done, and not everything that we heard from the community can actually be done because of those constraints and barriers. One of them that there seemed to be a lack of understanding for many residents and some businesses of the connection between energy bills and energy consumption, and then a lack of understanding of how energy efficiency could be a powerful tool to help people reduce their energy bills. Another big constraint is that incentive programs would require a source of funding to be implemented, and energy efficiency audits or technical assistance is also costly. So all those would result in a program that would not be free to implement. But there's also a universal desire amongst the stakeholders that we talk to retain low electric rates. There's a strong need for further workforce development in Frankfort and Franklin County, but there also needs to be a demand for audits and technical assistance that needs to be built at the same time as workforce trainings. And there's also a lack of support from the state to support those energy efficiency plan. So given all those constraints and what we heard from the community, we have come up with recommendations in what programs we think would be good for FPB to start with. And Jonan is going to walk us through this in more detail.
Great, thank you. So that was the doom and gloom slide, okay, where we talk a little bit about, all the things that everyone would love to do, and there's always constraints, and that's reality, and we've experienced that time and time again, throughout working with communities. Before we get into the ideas, and they're all workable. A lot of it is education and just really helping people understand, how to get started and phasing things in. And then you start to see a really nice spiraling effect. So, none of that's just to kind of set the stage and let you know that, yes, we know there are barriers. Now we want to talk about, how do we overcome that and what are some ideas? So what I wanted to do first was just take you through a little bit of why energy efficiency is really positive for the community. So, we might know a little bit about why it might be positive for individuals in the community, but in general, how does it help a total community? So this is an example. We run a program called Efficiency Smart in Ohio, working with municipalities. We have 26 municipalities, and so the rest of these three examples that I'm going to take you through are, with customers, communities and customers in their environment. So this was a community in Ohio where there was a recreational vehicle manufacturer that really wanted to use energy efficiency as a tool. They understood the value, they knew they had projects, but it was a tough economy for them. This was, think about it, when the time period when gas prices skyrocketed, not a lot of people were thinking about taking an RV across country as a vacation. So they really they knew things would change, but they had to weather the storm. So they worked with our program. They ended up doing some energy efficiency upgrades that saved them, $50,000 in annual electric costs. They know they're going to save more than close to $1 million over the lifetime of the installed project. So it's a significant amount of money. Plus, in the whole process, they started to become more efficient. Then when the market picked up again, headquarters said, hey, you guys over in Ohio, you're actually really productive. Your cost to produce is really well. You're doing better than others. So they actually asked them to take on more production, which then caused one of their suppliers to relocate or put in an office local to them, which then created jobs and revenue to the community. So, there's a lot of spiraling effects that happen when you get started with energy efficiency programs. It does create jobs. It does bring in, more support from the community and from especially the businesses. So this is another example where it's a small business success where the goal of the program was to be able to provide affordable and easy to install energy saving projects to the community while driving business to a local retailer. So we wanted to grow business to that retailer, but also help out all the residents in the community. So through the program, there was a small hardware store in Oberlin, Ohio, that we supplied these efficient LED light bulbs to them for free, and then allowed them to sell it to residents for $1 each during the promotion. So they were able to sell 2,000 light bulbs. The residents got them really cheap. And not only did it bring more traffic to the store, it helped them grow their revenues. It helped them bring in more efficient projects. And then they also chose to do a lighting project themselves where they replaced all the lighting in the hardware store and are saving over $8,400 in electric costs themselves each year from just that lighting improvement. And then the last one is really about, the community benefit of helping those in need. And this is really, looking at ways to increase services to really reduce the burden of energy bills on the vulnerable populations. And so through these energy efficiency programs, we were able to partner with senior centers, food pantries, Meals on Wheels programs, and community action organizations to really distribute these products to the hard-to-reach populations. And we worked sometimes with like Habitat for Humanity or AmeriCorps to actually bring these upgrades to these facilities for free to help those. So install the light bulbs, maybe install, in some cases, this looks like they were just doing some sealing and fixing some pipes and just trying to help these buildings get a little more efficient for the most vulnerable population. So, what I try to help people understand is that it's a spiraling effect. You've got to get started. It's slow it starts. It's a lot of education. It's a lot of outreach. But then you start to see, communities and people get aware of it, and everyone's getting excited about it, and businesses are saving money and they're growing, and people look for this. Like larger companies that are doing energy efficiency want to move to an area where they know they're going to get similar services to what they might have in other areas. So it's becoming more and more important to have the ability to offer energy efficiency services and have programs. So what we did, knowing what works well in communities, because we've been doing our Efficiency Smart program now for I guess it's on 8 years. 7 years, I think. We wanted to make sure that, we've tried a bunch of different things, and we've really felt that there's pretty much a core group of programs that are really the best place to start. And so these came from the interview, what we heard, as well as, just the current constraints that we know, that you're not going to be sitting here with tons and tons of money for budget, and we need to find things that really, satisfy the full community. So these are what's typically involved in a first round, kind of phase 1 program. And you all in your board packets have a summary page that probably looks similar to this, as well as you have this very large spreadsheet that takes each one of these programs and just explains in more detail on what they are, what are the pros of the program, what are the cons, what are the benefits, why would we pick this, and is anyone else in Kentucky doing this type of program? And also, what other municipalities, just give us a few examples of other municipalities that have this program, because sometimes people might think, is this something a utility should be doing? And, more and more, utilities that really want to help out their community and recognize that energy is a burden on all types of community members are really starting to do this, and they're seeing growth, they're seeing themselves gain scores on customer service, and it just becomes an overall positive experience. So I'm going to take you just a little bit through. These are the phase 1 ideas. Spreadsheet covers phase 1 and then other ones that you might want to consider down the road, but for today we're going to more focus on just, what are these phase 1? And so the first program that we always do for a community is really an umbrella program which focuses on community outreach and education. And this is really going to be where you're going to spend time, just helping to educate. There will be website information available. There will be, documents. There will be some outreach. Kind of tying into some of your events, like we just heard that there's I guess your community, what's happening, opening tonight? The fair.
County Fair and Horse Show.
So fair, that's a great opportunity to start to educate, on energy efficiency. So booths at the fair and things like that are really important to kind of get the community to start to understand energy efficiency and what that means to them. We also recommend, as the example that I shared with you with the hardware store in Ohio, some sort of LED light bulb discount, working with a local retailer here in your community and giving them that same opportunity to grow and to work with and to offer residents, very inexpensive light bulbs. Energy efficiency kits for the low-income community. We've worked with community action agencies to actually bring out energy efficiency to your low income and your most vulnerable population, to really help them see the value of energy efficiency. And these are usually easy to install types of products that just help them better understand what this could mean to them and how easy it is to get started with energy efficiency. Appliance recycling is a service that comes in and actually takes the old refrigerators and old freezers that might be in people's basements or garages, or are just plugged in all the time, that you use for one time a year, or Thanksgiving or 4th of July. So many people would actually get rid of those and not allow the energy to be used with that if they only had a way. And this is a great way to bring that to a community. The other one for residential and small business is product rebates, offering incentives on washers and dryers and refrigerators that are all Energy Star certified. You can do like heat pumps and anything that really generates a lot of energy. That now there's an opportunity to do that do it the same way, but just with a lower cost. A more efficient product that is being incented so that it's financially feasible. And then there's always usually an online store for efficient products, because there are always people that don't want to go to a store. They would prefer and do most of their buying online. For the commercial, institutional, industrial, we recommend that the thing that they need the most is help and support. They need someone who understands projects, understands how to sell projects to management, can kind of point out things that they can change, and really look at things objectively and help them come up with the projects. So we recommend, energy advising and technical assistance as a big part of the way to support your, large to medium customers. And then there's custom incentive rebates and prescriptive rebates. And the difference between those are the prescriptive rebates tend to be more of the, just more simpler types of products like lighting or lighting controls, HVAC systems. But a custom incentive is a way to kind of have the engineer look at a project and say, okay, this project, if we replace all of these items, will end up saving a certain amount of energy, and therefore let's create a custom incentive on that savings so that they know they are getting an incentive, but it doesn't have to be prescriptive, so that you can really look at what the needs are to make sure that project happens. So those are really the main phase one programs. They don't all happen day one. There's a whole, some of them are quicker to implement than others, but they are all worked on at the same time so that every type of member of the community has something that they can participate in as soon as possible. And then we put together kind of a whole list, because part of our project was, we don't even know what programs are that are out there. So what are the ones that are really out there in the market? And then our phase one was, well, what might work best in this community? So we wanted to share a bunch of other ideas, because someone might have heard, well, why aren't we doing online audits? I've heard those are the best things since sliced bread. Let's get that in. Well, yeah, we've thought about that, and we listed the pros and we listed the cons, and we explained why that's not in a phase one and why that fits much better, once you've got a lot of online presence and people are really using websites, and that you're more guaranteed that that is going to be a success. So, this we're probably not going to go through in detail, but if you have any questions, we can certainly answer them on specific ones. And then lastly, just to kind of sum it up, when we put together these phase one recommendations that were in that program matrix spreadsheet that you all got, which was our first deliverable on this project, we really wanted to make sure that they did meet, what we heard from the community. So, the first thing that we heard in summary is just that, you've got to have something for all types of community members: renters, residents, small businesses, large industrial, government buildings. So we feel that we've done that with this portfolio. Education and outreach is critical. I mean, it's clear that there's a lot of information and knowledge that we need to make sure the community understands in order to take advantage of these programs. So, that's in the portfolio. Workforce training is needed, but we've got to have this demand for services as a first step, because what we've seen in other states is if there's a business in energy efficiency, they will come. They will want to work here, but you've got to give them a reason to want to work here, and that's what a portfolio of energy efficiency programs really does for the community. We learned loud and clear that technical assistance is needed for the larger commercial and industrial and institutional customers. That sometimes it's not even cost that's the barrier. It's, how do I get started? I don't have the time to develop these projects. I don't know where to start. I just don't know enough about this. So that offering that advice and having that as part is really essential. And then, we did know that you will see savings. I mean, this is not a territory that has a lot of, this territory has a lot of low-hanging fruit. We learned that there has not been a lot of energy efficiency done, that the largest users see significant opportunity. So, as a whole, there will be significant energy savings. And if you don't, and the least cost energy is the one you don't have to buy. And that's what this program does. Lighting upgrades have been partially done, but there's plenty more opportunities, and that, the community is really interested in supporting its vulnerable population. So we feel that the phase one recommendations does cover, what we heard from the community, and we feel that's an important way to start an energy efficiency program. So with that, we will ask the board if you have any other questions. And we're ready to answer any questions on this. Let me just, I think we have a thank you and thank you. So, I'll just stand out. Both stand out. So is this the part where the board gets to ask questions?
Yep.
Right?
Do we have any questions? So the basic direction at this point is to take the Phase 1 suggestions and line those out in a report is what the aim is at this point.
And I'd like to add that between now and September, we'll continue working with FPB staff and individual board members and every board member to ensure our recommendations make sense and are aligned with FPB's goals.
So we just wanted to warn you that we are going to reach out to each one of you, if that's okay, probably, through them, and just set up like an hour conference call with you all, hear a little bit more from you on this, if that's okay.
So, and I think one thing that you didn't touch on that we talked about today was our aim would be something like a 0.5% decrease in our energy purchasing per year.
Right.
For 3 years, looking at it as a 3-year focus. So, okay.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the
All
time.
right, Steve,
I really
were you starting
appreciate
to
it.
ask a
Keep you
question?
posted.
I
I was just going to reiterate what I said last night to the ladies was that for me, I'm looking for something that impacts people practically. The educational programs we see all the time. As I was speaking last night to someone about, I don't need a symbolic program that shows we made an attempt and okay, we can pat ourselves on the back. We made an attempt and spent this money and didn't really see any practical or real impact as it relates to the ratepayer. So, from my vantage point, I need to see something that is going to impact or potentially impact the ratepayers as it relates to their energy consumption and as a consequence, their bill. Mm-hmm. So that's just reiterating what I said last night to you.
And that's, and obviously we're going to be giving you more and more in the final report. I mean, this is just obviously the interim phase to give you an update. But, but that's why when you do sign up for energy efficiency programs, you do, it's not a 1-year commitment because you can't get a lot done in a year. It's not, and that's, it's not a fly-by-night energy efficiency program. It's a real commitment that the community is making. And program implementers that do this kind of work look for 3 to longer year contracts, quite honestly, 3 being kind of what we would think would want to start with as a minimum. To just, because it's relationship based. It's like anything else. You've got to convince people, you've got to get them comfortable with it in order to really make a difference. So
let me ask you another question.
Sure.
I apologize because for some reason I have good timing and I've gotten a cold in the summer and I'm just whatever. But as it relates to the plan or the direction that you give us, I think that it would just be something like this. But I'm wondering if it can be something like, if I can use the analogy of the instructions on how to set up something. It kind of tells you in step 1 you do this, and after step 1 there's a specific thing you do in step 2. And maybe I'm using phase 1 and phase 2, interchanging those words with that. In other words, you're going to give us something that starts with the education, I'm assuming, and then from there we'll go to something to the effect of the light bulbs and something. And I mean, that's pretty simple to see that like that. But somewhere down that chain, things start to trail off, either from inattention, disinterest, lack of money, lack of clear direction, because it's been 2 years since we talked to you before. So something to the effect that shows us, as you have those instructions to set up, the Wi-Fi network, it tells you exactly from step to step, so you can't get lost from step 2 to step 3, and you can go back to step 1 if you got lost somewhere along the line. I'm not sure, and maybe you do, maybe it's generally given that the directions from the consultant or whomever is giving it is to the extent that it helps us maintain interest, maintain direction, and incentivize us if the directions are clear enough and potential results are good enough to continue to fund it. So, I mean, all those things to me seem to be things that can stop this good thing on the first year being a bad and a forgotten thing on the third year.
So I think I can answer that just two ways, and mostly, so there's two ways to implement energy efficiency programs. One is to take it all in-house, hire staff, figure out the data systems, do rebates and incentives, and try to do all this on your own. And then what 99.5 of the utilities out there do is they hire someone who does this day in and day out, implements, provides that technical assistance, helps do that education outreach, processes rebates and incentives, sets up online websites and stores, and does all of that, and makes this really turnkey. And so the numbers for the budget that you all received last time were more based upon this turnkey type of operation. And what you're doing in that situation, like I can share an example of just with our Efficiency Smart. So as I mentioned, we run a portfolio of programs very similar to what we shared with you all in phase one through American Municipal Power, which is the joint action agency in Ohio, for their members. So they share in the cost. So they share in all the costs of processing rebates and the IT system and the customer service representatives. And we were talking today about how for the 26 communities we have 4 engineers and 3 account managers that support, all the industrial projects. So it's just a way in which, you can share the costs. Even within phase one, what we'll be putting in the report are just some examples of what of the programs will actually get launched quicker than others, just based upon our experience, knowing that certain things might take a little longer. Like, for example, when you're working on an industrial customer, well, you've got to get through the technical support part first, and then they've got to present a project to their board. And so you're not going to see immediate savings the first few months, but you're going to see a pipeline where you're going to start to know, oh, this is coming down in the next 3 months. And that's why you've got to make more of a 3-year commitment, because things do take time. And you might find that year one, industrials are doing more efficiency, and then in year 2, it's been a big residential push. So you're trying to help your whole community, but you're doing it in the most efficient and effective way that you possibly can. Does that help a little bit?
No, it does. Okay. But you prompted another question in your comments.
Well, that's good.
You talked about the 26 municipals or whatever that do the shared cost. How does that work? Because we have joined KyMEA, this consortium of utilities, and while they're in their infancy, that might be something that comes down the pike for them, and how that works. So, what's your experience with that, and how would that work as opposed to just a single?
So those are the best ways to have economies of scale, when you can find like folks, like groups, and have them share. So in the Ohio situation, American Municipal Power recently actually is starting to do programs for and I always get this one wrong, but there's a Delaware JAA. So they're actually doing, instead of having the Delaware JA decide to do their own programs because there was only like 6 communities, they're actually now, American Municipal Power is doing the programs for them through our Efficiency Smart program. So there's always ways in which you can add another community to an existing program and work out the details. There's not a lot of restrictions usually in that type of environment.
So, and again, I'm thinking of what we could face practically, from a practical point of view. If we do implement the program that you have, that you suggest, and KYMEA comes with a program next year,
Mhm.
2 years down. What's the difficulty? How do we incorporate those things? Because one,
Yeah, I don't.
I know you don't know the answer. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a rhetorical question.
No, but I think once you start energy efficiency, it's okay to move it to a different entity, move the concept. If KYMEA is ready now, and they're like, okay, we've secured the power, we've dealt with the startup that needs to happen, which could take a few years. I mean, this is not usually the first thing a brand new JAA gets involved in, quite honestly. This is more down the road. So you might find that you're going to work with someone else for about 3 years, and then you're going to help get people excited about energy efficiency in the KYMEA environment, and they're going to say, well, now we're ready to do this, and then OMU might, would participate, and some of the smaller ones, and this is a great way to do that. They could hire a company to do the same thing that AMP hired us for if they're ready to do that. They could also, go to any of the JAAs and say, hey, how do I figure out, how could I become part, how could we use your programs? It's, the goal for municipalities, and what I love about municipal utilities is that, you all do share, and there usually isn't a whole lot of barriers to stop one JAA from helping another JAA, and from communities that are not in the same state to share and help each other. And I think American Public Power Association really pushes for that and really tries to make that happen.
Well, I guess
Because you're not really competitive. You're not competitors, and that's huge.
my comment is really not huge, really to us in this. As we go down this road, the agreement, the arrangement we have in KYME where cost is shared proportionally and stuff, that, again, I'm just thinking out loud, we start down the road with this plan, which I'm okay with doing that at this point, but KYME starts down at next year, and then we have to assume our proportional share of, let's say, phase one, the educational part of it, and we've already done an educational part of it, and those kinds of things. So I mean, just things I think we
Yeah.
need to kind of consider.
I think a conversation with KYMEA, if you all are ready to say, I think we want to do this, to make sure that this doesn't conflict with their plans, and that, would they even be ready in a year? I mean, are we talking about something that's even real? Like, is that feasible? Right. No, and
because of
right.
the possibility
Yes.
as it relates to our contractual agreements with them,
right.
it's something I think we have to.
Right. We'd have to see if there's any concerns. And we did ask that question to staff earlier today to just see if, if you are prohibited from doing work, of energy efficiency on your own or working with other entities. And, we didn't think that there was anything there at this point.
I'm not thinking about something that withhold us from doing it.
Right.
I'm thinking something about, we're going on an efficiency program, then we found out that we might have to pay
Right,
twice.
there's a double cost, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you'd want that to make,
Yeah.
you would want to make sure that KYME knew you were doing this, that you made a 3-year commitment, and that this is what you're paying for in energy efficiency for 3 years, and that a lot of what you've learned could be shared with them so that they actually get to do this, in 3 years
So,
as well for the community.
Yeah, I can add a little bit of that.
Sure.
We did talk about that yesterday, and Vent brought up some points about this is something that we could share back with KYMEA, that we could start working on it. And Vent, did you want to comment on that, how you see that might coordinate?
I think my comments were I don't believe. I mean, KYMEA with our contract, there's no issues with us doing energy efficiency. Demand side management is one of those things we'll have to work out with them if we were doing those kind of specific programs. But I mean, certainly we would let KYMEA know, and depending on how that goes. And I think some of your concerns, that's something we would obviously bring up to them. Is this something on your radar in the next 2 years?
My point is not that they would prohibit us from doing this. It's not that. It's that, and we can certainly share our experiences if we go forward and down this road with them. But the sharing of those experiences is not going to absolve us from having to pay our proportionate share of whatever expenses they incur to go down the same road. And that's what I'd like to
Okay.
figure out.
Makes sense.
Well, I guess
with-
there is kind of a question, like, there's the all requirements members, but energy efficiency really isn't part of all requirements, to my
Expenses are
understanding.
expenses.
No, there's provisions in the contracts to allow separate projects, and the energy efficiency could be a separate project, could be a separate project that's not necessarily.
No, I totally agree with you there. I'm talking about if the whole board, KYMEA board decides to embark on an energy efficiency program, and now we're talking about an expense of the body. And in that case, we would incur our proportionate share of that cost. I'm not talking, you're right, we certainly can go out and do these individual projects. I'm talking about if the KYMEA board decides to do one as a group, then I think, Ben, you can tell me, and I'm not putting you on the spot, if looking at if there's an expense that the full board decides to do as a group, total group, that we are into the cost of whatever that endeavor is.
If the entire KYMEA board voted to do it and do it as a mandatory program that everyone had to be involved in, would we, and we were basically outvoted, could we be on the hook for some of that? We could. I think that's probably not really I don't think that realistically would probably happen. I think I agree with Walt. Those are those things that would be.
It could happen.
But we could
So that's all
also,
I've
But I don't
asked, that
think
it
it's-
could.
Well-
I didn't say
it could.
But the possibility is there, but it could. All I'm saying is it's something we need to talk about because it could happen.
well, it could, but we could also ask for a weighted vote if that did occur.
Well, you're right. If we have the way to override it, fine, and that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, could is still in the sentence. So as long as it could happen, we need to understand if it could happen.
Well, I think it's more likely they'd ask us what our experiences are and what we would recommend to them.
We can share all of our experiences as we can, but if under the full board, as Vince said, and I'm using Vince not as what he said, it's just if the full board votes that the full board will do this project, and everyone in there is on the hook, and we're not able to overcome it through the weighted vote, but it prevails at the board, and there's an expense to go down the energy efficiency road, we would be on the hook for some of the costs. And what I'm saying is, I'd like to understand that better with them, because we could spend the money here and then turn around and have to spend some of those same kind of money for the same kind of activities with them if we are ahead of them.
Okay,
If I might add, I think
Please.
if you decided to do any of those programs, I think one of the things that you might want to do with any recommendations you might have would be to ask KYMEA what they thought about it, any obstacles they see, future plans. I mean, I think those are the kind of things you would bring up with them.
That's the
yeah.
conversation I'm talking about having
I think you would
with
have that,
them before we totally embark here
Okay.
with this.
so maybe this is something we'd want our representative to KYMEA to bring up at the next meeting, which I believe is coming up fairly soon.
Might be.
But I think you might want to get your final report. I mean,
Yeah.
if you bring up, you don't even, I mean, we could tell them that, we're looking at these type of things, and they're aware we are looking at them. I've discussed it with them. They know that we're looking at energy efficiency items. We could bring that up, but you don't have a final report yet to present. This is what we would, and the board hasn't made a decision. We would like to do either fully implement the report, or you want to do these pieces, or I think the board would need to make some kind of decision on what it thinks it would want to do, and then we could take that back to KYMEA and say, we want to do this. Do you see any obstacles, issues? Are you planning to do any of this in the next couple of years? Yes or no? And that would help you make a complete informed decision. But I mean, for instance, if we take this to them this month, we can certainly give them the data, but I don't know what the board's going to do, so I don't know what to exactly
No,
ask them.
I agree with what you're saying, that we need a final report to do. I'm not saying that we do it right now. I'm saying, but before we commit to funding the recommendations that come from you, we need to understand what KYMEA plans to do here, because we could be under a financial obligation to them to support the same things we already have paid for through this endeavor we're doing right now, this project we have right now. So all I'm saying is, when we get the report, because we've already committed to the consultants to do a recommendation for us, so that's already done. Once they've completed it, before we act on it, we need to talk to KYMEA. As Vince says, take it to them, show it to them, tell them what our plans are, and kind of see where they are with it. You know, well, we're going to do something next year. Well, that's 5 years down the road. We're not going to do. Then we're clear as to where we can do with it. 5 years down the road, let's go on and do, if we decide on it, do it. That's not a factor anymore. But a year and a half down the road could be a factor.
Okay. Well, that's something we should keep in mind. I would have the perspective that we should choose what's best for our community and then check in with them.
We're talking about what's best because you're talking about spending money twice. You're spending ratepayers' money twice, potentially. And all I'm doing is saying, let's guard against spending ratepayers' money twice.
Okay, good. So, any further comments or?
Well, thank you all for your time, and we'll be keeping you posted, and we look forward to talking with you all more.
Okay,
The next few.
thank you both. Okay. The next item, public comment period. Do we have anyone who wants to make a public comment? Go ahead, please. Please state your name and tell us what type of plant board customer you may be.
Okay, my name is Missy Sutton, and I think we have every service
Okay.
that the plant board offers. I don't know of one that we don't have, so I would
Okay.
have to say we have the majority of them anyway.
Thank you.
We are in the process of building a 2-megawatt solar farm. And after seeing, just coincidentally, behind their presentation there, and seeing that over half of the people here in Frankfort are renters, we are wanting to see about a community solar option. And we were wanting to know that if the plant board might be interested in exploring that option with us, which that would be offering a community solar project for renters and people that's not available to have or purchase solar on their property, that they might go through that. So this is what we're asking for, if you all might want to explore the option with us on that.
Okay. Where are you proposing putting it, like on a rooftop somewhere, or?
We're of a 2-megawatt, no, it's going to be on a property.
Okay. And do you have any previous experience with doing this? Is it a new project for you, or?
Yes, it's a new project
Okay.
for us. I'd say
Thank you.
that.
Do you have some documentation you could forward to the board, where the project is, timelines, those types of things?
We don't right now. We're just wanting to see if you all wanted to explore the option with us, and so therefore we could maybe see about exploring the option together on that. We have, we're in the development stage of it right now, so we're ready to go along with this a little bit further. So we just wanted to know at this point if you all may be, or if you wanted us to come back with a, maybe meet with staff or something like that and go over a process or something, and see if you all might be interested in doing that with us.
What do you see as our role in doing this with you?
Well, the community would be that they would basically own some of the panels or something like that, and then they would be taken off of it, something similar to a net metering. And what they would do, you all would be handling probably the administration of it, and seeing and making sure that if something did like that, that we did go along with something like this, that it would be more or less on the up and up going through the plant board, and that it would come off of their bills, and you all be more apt in the administration of billing and being able to provide information to them rather than for us making an entity like that. So it would be a little bit more of a, you ought to have a little bit more control over it.
And it would require tariff changes, and we have to control the interconnect.
Okay.
So it,
So I think, I would say the board is interested in entertaining the ideas and to put together a report.
could we meet with the staff on that then? And
That would be my suggestion, is I think they need to put together their proposal or what they're actually doing or proposing to do and talk to staff about it and run it through staff. Then staff will consult with the board. A suggestion.
Okay, so report and address it to Vent, most likely, or?
Well, I mean, to the general manager, he can disperse it to whomever he sees. But I agree with Ralph.
Okay.
Thanks.
okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Do we have any other public comments?
Hello. My name is David Hecker. I'm a Franklin County resident. I have electric, water, cable, internet, and telephone. But I'm here more so as a representative. We want to play tonight to thank you all. I can also say on behalf of the United Way of Franklin County as well. The plant board, as they've done for many other events, provided one of the water monster contraptions. You know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like a big water tank that's used, and it's got various spouts around it, and I forgot how many gallons it holds, but we used it at 2 of our races recently, and also it came in very handy during the Proactive for Life 5K that we partner with on the United Way of Franklin County. While we were setting up, while you all were setting up and we were still getting ready for our race, we had a rather large contingency of school children visiting the old Capitol, and it was rather hot that day, so we had extra cups, so we let them partake in the water, the Frankfort on tap, so to speak. So I just, again, thank you all for providing that, not only to our events, but many others around town. Also, while I'm here, since I've not been able to attend any of the energy efficiency conservation, but just on a personal note, in my own house, we just recently, unfortunately, had to replace our HVAC system. So I spent probably about 25% more to get a higher efficiency unit, both on the, we have electric, air, and then, but our furnace is gas. But we upgraded both units to a higher efficiency, and again, it was about 25% more. So I'm hoping over the course of the life of those units that will come back and save me some money. So I'll try to keep track on that. I've also been upgrading to LED lights too, as I need to. But I would be very interested in a homeowner in like a energy audit, and I'd even be willing. I don't know what those cost or how they operate in other utilities, but I'd be willing to pay a small fee to have something like that. I just don't know how they really work, but I think I could probably benefit from it.
Okay.
Just to see.
I know that the gas company offers something at this point, which might be a good place for you to start, because we're a ways away from actually doing something like
on the
energy
audits or on
the Columbia Gas.
I'm not on Columbia.
Oh.
I'm on Atmos Energy. That was another thing that I don't think we qualified, because our electric company and the gas company according to the vendor that we use, don't offer any type of incentives or payments, anything like that on the higher efficiency, but
One of the things we do offer, as we were saying, that, that program's not there today and would be a little while to get something up and running. We do have a link on our website to an online energy audit by the Department of Energy.
okay.
It's fairly extensive. If you go through all the steps, you're looking at an hour or a couple of hours. I mean, you can shorten it up and take shortcuts and make it 30 minutes, or you can take multiple hours, and it will go through considerable amount of detail. It gives you a multi-page report. You can save it. And so if you go to our plant board webpage, go to the electric portion and kind of scroll down that page, you'll see it at about halfway
Okay.
down. And again, there's links there, and there's a couple of documents about energy efficiency on there as well. So, but that will give you a good, as deep as you want to go into it, that website will let you go into it significantly. And I think the information on it's pretty good.
Okay.
But at this point, that's about the most we'd have.
I will
with it.
give that a try.
And if you want to go further with it, there's also private companies in the area that little energy audits.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Do we have anyone else who would like to make a comment? Okay,
If not, I'd just like to say one quick thing.
go ahead, please.
I'd just like to thank the water people they had a hard weekend this weekend in the heat. And as usual, they did a great job. Kathy Lindsay did a great job on social media, keeping people informed. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were all still out there doing stuff. So I just really like to thank them for their hard work, because that's one of the great things about being a community utility is we have real people that show up and get it done quick and get it done good. So thank you all.
Okay, very positive. Thank you, Dawn. We'll now go on to department reports, starting with website customer comments. We don't have any. Okay. Cable department, anything to
Yes,
report on?
Yes, the cable department report starts on page 34 with the customer service penetration numbers for June of 18. We're basically up in every area. We're down in broadband for the budget, but we're still ahead for the year. So all the numbers look pretty good there. The next page of the budget, our next page of the report is on 35. That's our trouble call report. Of course, we're a little over this year, but looking at the report, you see a lot of it's customer equipment, not related to FPB or not FPB related problem, and customer education. We're seeing a lot more of customers changing out modems and routers and things of that nature, which, we're kind of seeing as, a lot of the internet issues that we've seen in the past are, customers figuring out they need to do some upgrades on their end. So I think that's why most of those trouble calls are there. The next 3 pages are your outage reports for the month. On page 36, we had 6 outages for the month. 2 were utility, KU and Bluegrass Energy had power outages. The next 2 in node 4 and 73 were line extender problems and trunk amps, which are active equipment in the field. We had a power supply failure in node 20, and then they got put on a report, but typically they don't get put on here. We had a scheduled outage in node 16 with Old Lawrenceburg Road, and we had a bad piece of cable that actually goes across the interstate. We were having a lot of trouble replacing the cable as far as permitting, so we decided to actually re-engineer that route and turn it around, and so we scheduled it and got it done.
So does that mean you pulled new cable?
Yes.
Okay.
They're probably 400 and something feet in one pull. So yeah, we actually put new cable in and turned some actives around and actually fed it. It's actually went up to Johnson Road. I don't know if you're familiar with that road. It's off Nineveh. It's like Johnson, then Nineveh, and then it's Old Lawrenceburg is the main road that runs through there. We actually turned the cable around. It was already there, but as the signal went, we turned it around and ran it up Johnson Road because the cable that fed Johnson Road actually crossed the interstate. So we had a little bit of, that was just the quickest fix. With some of the customers were experiencing some issues the last couple of weeks, and that was the easiest way to do it because the permit process was going to take some time to get through as far as state and federal to shut down the highway. So that's what we've done. The active upgrade has started. We actually started today. We got 12 of the 2,800 chased out today, so it's a start. Hopefully,
0.5%.
yeah. So hopefully we'll move forward there and everything turns out really well. So seems to be a good group of guys we got in as far as on the construction team that they brought in, and we're getting everything down, and so hopefully that goes pretty smooth.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Moving on to customer service.
Good evening, everyone. And the customer service reports, I believe, are on page 38 or 39. I think it's 39. We tried to condense our information into one sheet for you instead of the different graphs that we had. So for the call count for the month, customer service had 4,720 calls in office. And then customer walk-ins were 1,446. And then for the cashier transactions, previously we had been providing to you some information for the transactions through the drive-through, primarily because that was a new feature to this building. We just kind of wanted to see if we were utilizing it, and I think that the numbers show that we really are and our customers like it. But also to give you a sense for the number of people coming in to make their payments through our cashiers. So we've added that just there at the bottom, but it's all summarized on one page for you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Do we still have much use of the drop box down there at the municipal, behind the municipal building at the parking lot? We left that drop box there.
Yes, sir.
Are we getting any action with that?
Very little. There are days when we get nothing from there. Sometimes we get 3 to 10 from there. Primarily on the due date, we might get 10 to 15. It's an area that customer service and meter reading, because currently they're the ones who have to transport and go. We wonder if it's still necessary over a year later. It might be something to revisit with the board if we're at a point where we could go ahead and close that drop box. We have kept those numbers, and we do see that we get less than 10, and some days none. So we do have those numbers if you're interested in them, but there's been a significant decline over the year. People have just gotten used to coming here and dropping it here.
There wouldn't be much expense with it, but it would eliminate a stop for
Yes, it
occurring.
would. It's just a time thing for them. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Our next item is the electric department. Scott?
The electric report starts on page 40. That is our SEPA number. As you can see, our SEPA for the month of June. June. Sorry, I'm rolling behind. Is 28.731. Page 41, once again, is going to be your pie graph. It just shows the percentages for the causes of outages. The page 42 is going to take those percentages and show you the exact number of each outage for each one of those categories, which you can see we had a total number of outages of 60 for the month of June. And on page 43, you're going to see your list of your top 10 customers. And we had a total of customers 1,045 last month. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So when you say that the top 10 customers, they're actually
It's usually like an area is what it is.
Okay.
So that's where you'll have multiple customers in one area.
Interruptions.
interruptions. Okay, that's what it's looking for. Okay. So would you say it's pretty much a typical month?
No, that's 1,000's a little above average. We don't typically have 30,000 customers each month out. Maybe 50, 60 at the most. So this was contributed to. We had some renegade thunderstorms. We had one that affected the the Johnson Road area, the Glens Creek Road area, and all that. That was we had some wind take down some lines, and of course the lines got down the road, and Harry Carter dump truck snagged into those and broke 2 or 3 poles. So it was a little ordeal to fix. So.
Okay. Did that happen during the night, the dump truck?
No, that was during the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you notice, the past storms that we've had during the week usually hit us about 3 o'clock, 3:30. That's what we've been having thunderstorms.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, this time of the year, it's clockwork. Time to go home from work, so we just don't go home. So.
that particular outage was one of the ones that was covered pretty heavily on social media. We had a lot of live video there. I don't know if you may saw it. There were, how many, did you say, two broke poles or three in that area, right in that area?
2 broke poles in that area. We had one in another area.
It was, and due to that, it was a considerable, cable communications was obviously involved as well, was interrupted. So that was the biggest outage. That was, again, that was one of those, I think social media helps us get that word out there, and we had quite a bit of information there. So.
That's good.
There's a Herod Carter truck. This isn't the first time a Herod Carter truck has nailed us either.
No.
Well, I wouldn't call this their fault though.
Yeah,
This was the storm broke the poles with the trees, and it came down low. They happened to be the unlucky person with a tall vehicle that happened to pass by the next few minutes.
The line,
and,
so, yeah.
and so they weren't. It wasn't their fault. They just happened to be.
Act to God.
Yes.
Act to God.
Any more questions?
I think we're good. Thank you. So, SEPA report?
Yes. The SEPA report is on page 44, 45, and 46. And on 46, you'll see that for the month of May, we actually were in the black, almost 10 grand. That's attributed to the energy prices for the month of May were higher than they were in April. And the volume of SEPA energy that was allocated to us was higher, almost 50% higher than the previous month. Again, more water flowing over the dam, so that we had more kilowatt hours. So those two combined together to give us a positive month. And then if you look on 46, you will see kind of the running total for the year. On 46, I do want to bring to your attention, I handed you out a corrected sheet. We had accidentally, on the 2018, just put the monthly totals on there in the board package. So the corrected sheet you have has the annual through May 2018 totals. So through May for this year, we are $1,753 in the red. So I'll be happy to answer any specific questions you have, and that's my report.
And hopefully, I noticed in previous years that the more positive side continued through the summer, so maybe we can expect that to happen this year as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with obviously lake levels and how much energy they can produce with how much water they release. So hopefully so.
KyMEA report.
Yes, the next KyMEA meeting will be held at Lake Barkley State Park on, let's see here, it's going to be 1 o'clock Central on Wednesday, July 25th. So that should be out on our website closer to the meeting. Anyone that'd like to go out to the electric services page of our website and look at the agenda as usually within the week of that date would be out there. Yesterday, as you all know, we did submit to the board, or Mr. Liebman forwarded to the board, the renewable purchase power agreement for our solar piece of our portfolio. And I'll be asking the board to direct me how to vote. In August, this item will be coming to the KyMEA Board of Directors. So I'll be asking on August 21st for this board to direct me how they would like me to vote for that purchase power agreement. But if you have any questions, I know KyMEA representatives are willing and open to meet. So please reach out to me and we will get that scheduled. I think we're just over a month away from that date. So I'd like everybody to feel good about their decision on the 21st of August. So let me know what I can do to help you better understand the agreement. But other than that, that's all I have for this month.
So are the KyMEA guys going to put together a presentation for us on the PPA?
No, I would like you to reach out to me if you'd like to meet with them, and we'll meet one-on-one, two-on-two, and go through that. They've given several presentations about the generals of this throughout the KyMEA meetings as well. I've provided the board with closed-door session information over months and months that we've walked through this. So if you reach out, I think this is something, it's all something we could possibly look at doing a closed session if you'd like. So that's something we could look at doing if you'd like to walk through it that way as well. So it's really how the board would like. If you'd like to do a closed session, we could look at doing that if all the get the okay on that type of a meeting, or reach out and we can have meetings here.
Do we really have a choice there, James? I mean, to be able to talk about it, we kind of have to do it in closed session to honor the NDA, right?
I think you're correct, but we need to look into that, be sure we're on solid ground. Just came up.
They did a really great, I don't know if presentation is the right word, maybe explanation of it all in the KyMEA meeting that was held here. So, you know, it was very beneficial to hear that then.
I believe if it can be done in closed session, I'd be in favor of us having a special meeting and going into closed session and all of us trying to understand it together.
Okay.
And then meet one-on-one if we have to after that.
Okay.
Okay, good input. Something coming up to determine. I think, any other questions, or we'll go on to safety?
Unfortunately, I do have a few OSHA recordables this month. We had a employee that with a broken toe after a jackhammer slipped and struck his foot behind the steel toe, so he was lucky to just suffer a broken toe on that. We had an employee that was treated for a spider bite and needed antibiotics, so that threw that into the OSHA recordables. And then a cable employee was walking down the sidewalk and rolled his ankle and or rolled his foot and ended up with a fractured foot from that incident. On the vehicle accident side, we had Scott mentioned the Renegade thunderstorms, and we were working those Renegade thunderstorms, and a electric truck slipped off a gravel driveway, and as the truck shifted, they hit a tree stump and actually did quite a bit of damage to the truck, but no one was injured. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Must have been a big tree, because those trucks are big.
It was a stump. It was I think
a stump. So harder to see.
Yes, it was dark. It was, I think, way up in the morning when that happened, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, water distribution.
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board, water distribution report can be found on pages 50 through 52. And we had 1 main break and 3 outages. I think, Ralph, you asked me last week about the outages. Some of those are scheduled tie-ins, so when I report those, we may have some off. And I do want to thank my crews for working this weekend. They did work some long hours.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Well, we discussed a little bit before the meeting about the water fountain look, and that you mentioned East Side Park.
Yes, they're going to do some renovations at the East Frankfort Park, and they're going to put in some senior activities there and do some renovations, and we talked about maybe placing one in that area. And then there's down at the farmer's market, there is a meter there. We're going to try to get permission from the state to actually install it somewhere there close to the parking lot. That way, if the state ever takes over that property, we'd have to forfeit that. We could unbolt the fountain and move it somewhere else, but we'd have to leave the infrastructure. But we could do that one there, and we're working on a 3rd place.
So on the farmer's market, so it'd be close to the edge of the parking lot on the grass?
Yes, ma'am. That's what the area we looked at was. There's kind of an inset in the parking lot, about halfway across the parking lot there that faces Wilkinson. And we thought maybe right in that inset area, it's almost right across from the end of Farmer's Market. So it would be fairly close.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. And then we talked a little bit about Cove Springs Park and the archery area.
Yeah, Cove Springs really doesn't there's not water accessible at Cove Springs Park. The only place they have water is down at the bottom, next to the restroom facilities and the maintenance building. The archery and the pavilion up on the top is several thousand feet away from our water line, so that's really not economical. especially since it's rock. It would be very expensive, but there's some places down along Wilkinson Boulevard along that walking path that would be easily accessible to our water line that we might consider some of those places down there. Jim and I think I've talked twice about different places. The other one was maybe at Dolly Graham Park. They're looking to put in a spray ground down there and do some renovations. I don't think that's going to happen this year, though, but we might consider one down there when they renovate, do the spray ground renovations and update some of the infrastructure there.
And if any of you are familiar with, that's kind of close to Fantasy Park and the community garden.
So those were the other locations.
Okay, well, it sounds like good thought process going on, and the most promising one in the plan is Eastside Park.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. And water treatment plant.
Good evening. The water treatment plant report is on page 53. And in June, we continued our summer upward production in our numbers, and we treated 270.5 million gallons. That's 9 million gallons of water a day on average. Scott mentioned the Renegade thunderstorms. Yes, we had over 5 inches of rain, and it seemed like we got 4 of that in like 3 days. So we did see a lot of rain. Because of that, the river flows have they jumped up in the middle of the month. They're coming back down right now. So we saw 7,800 cubic feet per second coming past the intake going over Lock 4. That's 5 billion gallons of water a day. So it's dropping off a little bit as the summer weather patterns start to change on us. We did hit our maximum day for the year to date on the 16th of June, and we treated almost 11.2 million gallons of water. And Alan thanked his guys. That same weekend, I had a couple of them out at the water treatment plant working long hours and staying in constant communication with Alan and Brian and his crews, trying to keep the water flowing and keeping all the tanks full. So we work as a team. So thanks, guys. Any questions?
I think we're good. Thank you. So it is almost 6:30 when we're going to break for our closed session, so I thought we might want to go ahead and do that. This is the request permission to have the chair call a closed session. Move to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101F for discussions regarding potential candidates for appointment to the general manager position. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I move that we go into closed session for the stated reasons.
Second.
Okay. And we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Diane? All in favor of returning to open session? Okay, all in favor. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember. Okay, consider award bid invitation 1661 for video equipment to Digital Video Group in the amount of $26,997.95. BH Photo in the amount of $33,646.76, and AWI Systems in the amount of $305. Scott Hudson to update us. Scott Stafford.
Thank you. We've actually got updated numbers on the handout that I passed out at the beginning of the meeting. As you mentioned, this is a bid for video equipment that either needs to be replaced or upgraded, as well as a new live video server for Cableton, cameras, tripods, batteries. This bid was sent to 11 vendors, and we received 3 responses, and staff recommends awarding the lowest bidder for each item. You can see those bids on pages 54 and 55. You'll notice that the wrong bid is highlighted for item 3. So on the handout that I passed out, the totals are $45,183.95 for Digital Video Group, $26,542.75 for B&H Photo, and $305 for AVI Systems. and we're requesting that you consider awarding this bid to the respective low bidders.
Okay. Is this equipment that we have to upgrade because of going to the new system?
No, it's
just
this is all older equipment. We haven't replaced cameras, for example, for several years, and a lot of our equipment goes through the ringer in the type of productions that we do, and so it's just due to be replaced.
Okay. What do we do with the stuff we're replacing? Do we put it on?
Some of it stays in the rotation. Some of it we surplus. We've donated some equipment to schools in the past, so it depends on what the equipment is and how we can best use it.
Okay. So, would someone like to make a motion, or?
Is that in the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor of purchasing the new equipment?
Aye.
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 Not in favor? Okay, motion passed. Thank you, Scott. Okay, on to item number 7, consider award bid invitation 1663, annual price contract for ductile iron pipe, ductile iron fittings, and tapping sleeves to Core and Main and Hayes Pipe Company. Mark.
Most of FPB's ductile iron pipe fittings and tapping sleeves are purchased from this annual price contract here. It's kept in inventory, and from time to time it needs to be replenished. Orders for this material depends on new development, maintenance, replacements, sometimes main breaks as we had this weekend. This year's bid invitation was sent to 11 vendors with 3 responses received. After evaluating the bid, staff recommends awarding the pipe to Core and Main, the fittings to Hayes Pipe Company, and the tapping sleeves to Core and Main. Last year we spent about $82,000 on this contract. Didn't make us, we don't have to buy anything at all if we don't need it, but it's there to keep our pricing steady.
Okay. Sounds good. Do we have a motion?
I'll move we award bid 1663, annual price contract for ductile iron pipe, ductile iron fittings, and tapping sleeves to Core and Main and Hayes Pipe Company.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. So, thank you, Mark. Item number 8, consider award bid invitation 1662 for 2 transformers to Cape Electric Supply in the amount of $21,839, 2 transformers to CG Power in the amount of $14,762, and 4 transformers to Central Moloney in the amount of $9,284.
Okay. So staff prepared this bid, and we sent this bid for pad mount and pole mounted transformers. We sent it to 10 vendors, and we had 7 responses. After reviewing the bid, staff recommends awarding item 1 to Cape Electrical for $9,565. Item 2 to Cape Electrical for $12,274. Item 3 to CG Power, actually item 3 and 4, but to CG Power for $6,483 and $8,279 respectively, and item 5 to the Central Moloney Company for $9,284, and that's 4 transformers. Actually, they're $2,321 each.
Okay.
These transformers will just be used to replenish inventory as well.
Do we have a motion?
I move we award bid 1662 for 2 transformers to Cape Electrical Supply in the amount of $21,839, 2 transformers to CG Power in the amount of $14,762, and 4 transformers to Central Moloney in the amount of $9,284.
And a second?
A second.
Okay, Ralph had seconded. Any discussion? Discussion? All in favor of purchasing the transformers? Aye. Okay, motion passed. James, I realized that from our closed session, we did decide to have another special meeting. Do we need to declare that as something from the closed session?
No.
Okay.
You just have to notice that next meeting.
Okay, and I've asked Kathy to notice that as a special meeting, closed session, just to, we had back and forth there and getting going again, so I wanted to make sure that was clear. Our next item, revised board policy on firearms. Legal from staff has asked that we skip that one for now, that more research is needed, so we'll pass over that item and go on to number 10, consider Network Operations Center Director position.
Thank you.
Diane.
The 2018-19 fiscal year budget includes funding to develop a network operations center, and this proposed department would report to the Assistant General Manager of Operations and will be responsible for regular and after-hours dispatch, customer outage management, after-hours customer contacts, facility locates, and coordinating emergency response. Staff asked the board to consider approving the Network Operations Center Director position, which will be essential in developing and managing the department. Copies of a proposed job description, the organizational chart, and is in the board package starting on page 69. Based on an evaluation of the job description or specification, the grade classification is 116 for the position. The minimum annual salary for that position is $75,254. The position is exempt. This position, as well as the department, are included, as I mentioned, in the current budget, with $535,000 allocated for the Network Operations Center. Be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, I looked this over pretty carefully, and I also looked at the plant board chart here, and I know we discussed it a little bit in the agenda planning meeting, but to me, this seems to fit with customer service, but it's not listed that way, and thought that was something we should discuss and consider. And also, this proposal includes moving the service center NOC portion to the administration building and making the service center the backup system. So it's, I think, it's a radical change, or it's an important change for us to consider.
As far as the position reporting to customer service, I know that was something that staff, discussed and felt like the better fit is under the Assistant GM of Operations. So, anything you will say about that?
Yeah, we'll go with that. We actually started a Network Operations Center in 2001, and the plant board operated the Network Operations Center until 2015. And in that situation, it was under customer service during that time period. And without a specific manager for it, without a specific, we ran into all kinds of problems. After we ran through those kind of issues where some of the functions they do are customer service driven, but the vast majority of them were more of an operations issue with, again, you were answering phone calls, you were having interactions with customers at pieces, but it was not the customer interaction, and I don't think we would see this as the customer interaction that, all the customer service folks have. Your doors are not open, the customers aren't in here interacting with you, you're not taking money, you're not offering those particular kinds of services. if we wanted to expand it to do those kind of things, I think you would have to have significantly more people than, you know, what we're specifically planning for here. You know, I think the concept was to have a situation where they, again, take care of all the safety issues, the after hours that we deal with, be able to answer customer calls, direct them to our website, provide some information based on our customer billing and those kind of informations that we can to our customers. Again, take emergency response calls, deal with those kind of things, customer outages, facility locates, the emergency response, we have to deal with those. That would make up a larger portion of it than rather than doing what you would consider that in there to be customer service. So that's kind of our mindset behind that. Again, from 2001 to 15, we kind of had that type of approach, and it frankly didn't work in our opinion. And eventually we moved away from that situation. And then from 2015 until today, we've had the off-site call center, and certainly everyone I know is aware of the issues we've had there and our customers being unhappy with that solution. That's we tried the NOC solution going through kind of the customer service way of doing it without specific management for that. We don't think that worked. From 2015 to now, I really don't think the cheaper version has worked well. So we're back to starting a NOC, but starting it in a different vein, different than what it was. Starting it with a manager that knows that particular field, someone who can kind of build it from the ground up with the attention to detail and professionalism that this particular thing needs. Certainly, interacting with customers is a huge portion of it, but just like operations and all the other lines of business interact with customers on a routine basis. But we just don't quite see that as the same as a customer service representative that we currently would think about during our daytime office.
So let me ask you a question. If I called in and said my internet service is down, who would that go to? In the scenario that we're talking about.
Talking about after hours or during the day?
Well, okay, during the day and then after hours.
Do you want to answer that? During the day.
During the day, the ticket would be, it might come through customer service, but then the ticket would be handed off to a different tier, whether it be our help desk.
Okay, but it goes through customer service. I'm just trying to see where initially. So where would it go after hours?
It would go to this
network operations.
Right. And they would pretty much handle it the same way. They would either send it to the third-party provider if they can't help the customer, or they would enter a ticket and send it to dispatch.
Okay. So if I called and said there's a pole down in the back of my house, electrical pole, during the day, where would it go?
It would currently today, if you called, it would go out to the service center. You would get the one dispatcher we have there who would contact electric department, and they would go out and look at it. If you called after hours, you would, and under this scenario, you would get one of these dispatchers, and they would contact our after hours trouble call folks and have them dispatch to it and interact with the customer. So, again, I'm not going to say that we have all the details of how the after hours would work. That's part of the reason of wanting the director first, is to help work through those details. When we've evaluated our calls after hours from roughly midnight to 5 in the morning, we get 1 or 2 calls on a normal night. So we're generally not suspecting that they would operate staffed from midnight till 5 in the morning or something like that, because that doesn't seem to make much financial sense if you get 1 or 2 calls. So there would probably have to be some type of after-hour call situation that would handle a very, very limited number. Now, if you have an outage situation arise, then that's when this department gets called in. They might be able to start some of the phone answering from a home call tree that they could start to respond immediately. You start to send people in. Those are all decisions that really we would be coming back to the board with this advice of this manager who has experience in the field and trying to develop the details of exactly how we would have those people work. So those are things I think that we would come back to the board with at a future time.
And this department would work out of this building?
Yes, in the basement, we have a storm-hardened dispatch center. When the building was built, that was something that we've always been missing. The service center, as you're aware, is a tin can and doesn't hold up well to tornado. So that's been our only real solid dispatch center. So that would be the backup, and we would move to the storm-hardened area to where primarily they would all work out of that situation. If we needed to move somebody back there, maybe a recommendation would be to split it during the day. Those things I don't think anybody has decided, but certainly we have a dispatch center in this basement, ready to go with everything we need. It has a generator that can handle a tornado, and certainly the facility storm hardened. So that would be what we expect would happen with the dispatch center.
Department would be 6 or 7 employees, is that correct?
Using the concept we were where, there was some type of call center at the periods of night when you had very few calls. With 2 folks overlapping shifts, we expect that there would probably be, I think it was 7 dispatchers. We currently have 1 on staff. And then we have 2 locators that do emergency locates. If you call before you dig, you call Bud, and they're dispatched out to do all those kind of things. We expect those 2 people to move over. They work very, very closely with the dispatch center, and their functions are very similar there. So they're currently, we have 2 at the company, so they would move over as well. So this particular manager would manage probably 9 people, maybe 8. Again, it would there's a certain amount of money in the budget, and the manager would help determine that. They may be able to, maybe 1 less or something, I'm not sure.
So this is an area that's really needed to be addressed once and for all, to get it properly organized and budgeted and set up. It's so important. I know I'm in discussion now, but it's just so important, because this is where people reach out and touch us, and this is where we've got to be there. And it has been a struggle for years to come up with a good solution. And I think the management is trying to address that effectively.
There would be a weekend as well. The concept would have these individuals here on the weekends, local. They know where we're at. Back at the old knock, the communication that was had with men and women in the field was direct. People knew if you're out on the pole, they knew where you were. Today, we've had to adjust operations because we just don't have that today. So there's a level of safety. There could be downtime as well. So we are talking about integrating some customer service aspects to this. It could be proactive in a way as far as reaching out to the customer as well. But we don't want to get away from the primary function of dispatch, outage management, after hours, the core. But there would have customer service aspects to it as well.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm for this. I said it back when we did the budget. I was looking at it from the perspective of watching the safety and the health of the employees and that. But my concern right now is that it's so vague. You put $535,000 out there, and we really have no idea where this is going. I mean, I'm for whatever we can spend for the safety of the employees, the people out there at night, at Saturday or Friday, whatever night, and all alone, and making sure they're good. I want to do that. But what I'm hearing right now is there's no plan, no fuzzy plan on what we're going to do. It's just $535 out there to do something that we're going to determine.
No, it's not a fuzzy. I wouldn't say there is a plan. What we're talking about is trying to bring in someone who has done this before. Most of the money that we're budgeted is for payroll and benefits. The NOC Operations Center downstairs, hardened, it's fully operational and ready to go. There would be some money of this $535 for additional potential software, other equipment needed. But bringing this person in that's done this before, that has managing this group. So we're talking about payroll. So,
but
we're trying to start with the building block.
But that's the issue, because payroll is the hardest expense to get rid of if it's a mistake.
Well, this is only for one position.
But
the others wouldn't happen unless it was brought back in front of the board through recommendations from the manager who has experience in this field. That's what we're trying to say is we have a general concept with some details, but I think it would be, if you're going to bring a manager in who you're certainly looking for someone with experience, you want their input to help you develop those final details. And then we would come back to the board with, here's our resident expert, here's their recommendations, here's what they've seen done in this field, here's all their inputs. We think these are the final pieces, and then that would come back to the board. We're not asking to spend $535,000.
No, it's to hire a manager.
No, but again, but if I use the example of an RFP, when you put an RFP out, you have some of the parameters that you want to be achieved or done, and that becomes somewhat of the outline, if you will, or something. But I don't hear any of that kind of.
We've done this before, so we know what we're going for we're actually looking to make what we've done before and make it better. So we had, like you mentioned, for what was that, 15 years?
Since 2001.
We've done this before. It's just trying to make it structured in a much better way.
So with the hiring, what's our time frame here? How long when do you expect to put the job out on the street? When do you want to have an employee? When do you target getting those big building blocks done?
I mean, with the job description written, if the board approved it tonight, I would think it would go out on the street by next week, I would think. And then, I guess, Dan, I'd have to defer to you as to how long it would take from that point.
Well, I mean, it would take probably a couple months, to finalize a candidate. And, since we haven't had this position before or did a search for this position before, we don't know what our response would be, and we may have to, come back and adjust once we see what the response is. But if we get a good response, it would take a few weeks, to do the interviews and also to do the background checks. And
so 2 to 3 months, we'd have somebody in the role. So
yeah.
Then what kind of time frame do we think you guys would be back to us looking for more money for staffing, or taking that next step? Do you have some sense of, is that 90 days out, 180 days out?
I mean, I think it would depend on some of their background, but certainly I would think a couple of more months for them to, I mean, again, you're bringing someone in who has been working in this specific field. They're going to understand those things. They're going to help tell us what works and what doesn't work. And a couple of more months, I think you could come up with a real good plan for the department in the detail that I think you're looking for, Mr. Mason. And at that point, you would decide, is it 6 employees? Is it 7? Is it
at the same time?
Is it 5?
So you think this is maybe something we...
No, I mean, I'm only speaking I'm not saying hypothetical, but I guess in some way, what if the plan that they came up with was totally a plan that no one wanted? You have an employee on staff now.
Well,
we're not going to hire someone who has not done it before, though.
No, I think you had a good candidate, but the plan that the candidate comes up with isn't anything that's acceptable. Now, and let's say that you just decide, well, we can't have anything workable here. You have an employee on staff that now you really have nothing to do with it.
Well, I don't think you would.
I know you're fast.
This is back to trusting your staff who's done this before, that we're going to bring an acceptable solution to you.
Well, if the board doesn't like the solution that we come up with through that, then we modify the solution. Yeah. But the concept that they just have nothing to do, we still have this big problem. Our customers are not getting good customer service through the current situation, the way it's been running since 2015. So we've got to solve that problem. The only way we know to solve it as staff, we've tried to do it since 2015 with a call center. We tried it through the customer service route since 2001. Having a manager that knows this field, who sets a level of professionalism and accountability in this area, is our best way of fixing it. If they come to you and say 6 people and you all don't like it, then you all veto the plan and we go back. But ultimately, if you wanted to get rid of the employee, but we still have the same problem. We've gone out to bid and we tried to do the services, and they were close to $300,000, and that was just for electric and water, and we're unable to find companies that deal with all 3 lines of business we have. We've gone down that road. We've spent quite a few years trying to actually solve this problem. So, I mean, it's not like you started something you can't stop. But
I'm going to vote for your position, so you don't have to worry about that. All I'm doing is questioning is that there seems to be no one seems to know generally where this is going. You use the word in your last description in your last monologue just right now. You used the word for customer service, but earlier you said it wasn't going to be for customer service. So I mean, so in my mind, I'm hearing both things, and I'm saying, well, okay, well, where is this? What is it really going to be doing? Because you said customer service this last thing, but before you said, well, it's not going to be like customer service.
Well, I think that I meant the general idea of customer service in general rather than the department of customer
When they
service.
have an outage, they can't get a hold of somebody, or they're on hold for 2 hours. That's one thing we definitely want to remedy with this position, is during emergency situation, during outages, we have staff here to answer the phones locally and to provide support to customers and also support to the field employees out working. So, I mean, it is part of customer service. It might not be to the level where they're taking payments over the phone, but it's still customer support when they call in with a problem.
Since it's a significant structural change, I mean, is this something we might consider deferring until after we have?
I'm all right with the position. I mean, I've talked about it before. I've questioned Vint before.
I think it's important. I mean, we've talked about having the knock before. We know we're not happy with what's currently going on. And so it's important to be able to have somebody in here with the experience that can give our customers the service that they're used to with the plant board of having real live people that know where Bluegrass Avenue is. And so when, it's midnight and someone has an outage, the person knows what they're talking about. And we're not getting that right now. And so, I trust that the details can be worked out, but the main concept, I think, is important, and I don't think we need to wait. I think we need to go ahead and...
My only point was challenging you to kind of crystallize where you are and where you're going, because it just sounded...
Well, I agree. We just thought to work out all the details and then bring a director in and say, these are the details you have to work under, and it's all been worked out. And then they tell us, I wouldn't have done it this way or this way or this way. And I have 10 years of experience running a system like this, and I think you set these up wrong. It seemed to make more sense to us is to bring them in, listen to what they have to say. Certainly with our oversight, it'll all be, the board will decide whether they want the pieces and parts that we come up with as a plan, but why not use this expertise to develop your detailed plan was our thoughts. But again, it will take, like we said, it'll take a couple of months to set this up, and then you'll have a couple of months to try to work out the plan. And then if the board approves that plan, it's going to take a couple of months. You got to staff up and hire 5, 6 people. We do have one dispatcher that's been here since the 2001, was from the old system, and is of vast help. And I don't know, they may even apply for the job, but those kind of, we've got that kind of stuff on hand, but you're looking at, to be honest, you're probably looking at 9 months or more pushing hard, and we've got a real problem to solve. And I got to be honest with you, short of bringing in someone who knows what they do, we've tried almost everything else, and I don't know what else to do.
So do we just need a motion then to accept this position?
To create the job, to create the position and authorize her to commence with steps to hire somebody.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I have one comment. Do we think that all of the additional employees that this person might design the department for, would we draw off how many employees we already have, as far as whatever they're doing now could be combined with this? Or are we looking at, by having this person, are we also looking at adding 7 to 9 more employees, new positions?
Our thing would be new employees. They would take on...
It might be some internal transfer.
Right, but new positions would probably be better terminology. Okay.
Yeah, because the hours alone.
No, you can't do it with the existing. Cassie knows more about running this than anybody here.
We actually tried that, didn't we?
And for years and years and years, it worked like who can, we had 4 people over there, which was insufficient. So Cassie's constantly looking for people that can, okay, you can go home this afternoon and stay home and then come in and work from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. to cover the knock. Well, what happens? Customer service suffers because there's nobody up here to answer the phones and meet your customer during the day.
Well, that's good.
And then you only have one person at night.
Yeah. What I was basically clarifying is that by saying we want to go ahead with this position, in some ways we're saying we're going ahead with a whole department.
Well, when you approved the budget, I think you kind of said you were trying to go ahead with the budget, so we're trying to develop a plan to do that. But if you decide we bring in a director and interim plan and you say, those people are crazy and we're not going this way at all, and you change your mind, that's certainly your right to do so as the board, and you will have the ability to do that.
Because the other job descriptions will come back.
Right, you're right. I'm just, it's a first step towards that, so that's why I'm
It's absolutely
bringing
the
it
first
up.
step toward the department.
Right.
Right.
We are committing to forming an internal department that would give us not complete 24-hour coverage, but would give us some significant coverage during the week and weekends. And you could go a separate service, electric and water, try one for telecom, put it together with an after-hours emergency dispatch and try to do it all third party, if you would like to go that way and piecemeal. Or you get people local, people know where we're at, we've done it before.
I think we all know that.
And we know how that goes. And then also, for us to differentiate ourselves telecom-wise, there come a day when our customer service will be the differentiating factor, and hopefully this will help contribute to that as well. Having people local, if we can excel and just absolutely kill customer service, I think that's going to be, that'll separate us.
This will turn out to be a good move, I think. I think it will.
Okay. Any further discussion, or we covered it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you for all the discussion. Let's see. We're on to item number 11, discuss potential board policy. Dawn, this is your area.
Okay, thank you. On July the 6th, I sent the email to you all with a draft of a board governance policy. I think it's important that we have a board governance policy, not necessarily what I have cut and pasted and plagiarized that I sent you all, but that what we use this as a starting point. This is OMU's board governance policy. I didn't even use much of their government policy because it was so advanced. But if you go online and just look, most utility boards do have a board governance policy. I think that by having written policy, our bylaws really don't say a whole lot. And so when we have questions regarding different board issues, it's not answered in the bylaws. Hopefully we would be able to come up with a board governance policy that would cover more of the issues that come before us. What I'm asking you all tonight is just to agree to start thinking and working on a policy. Maybe set a day to have a special meeting where all we would do is sit down and either take this and start the discussion, or come up with another one that you all might come up with. But to sit down and actually put together a board governance policy. And if we could set a date for that, I think that would be great. So, I mean, how do you all feel about working on a board governance policy?
Well, I think we need to, like as I probably have said to you, Don, is, maybe we do a retreat. Excuse me. Maybe we have a meeting, but it needs to be done over time.
Right.
So that there isn't any unintended consequences adopted that we don't see. But I do think that we need to have some things, some understandings and processes that we all adhere to. Now, how long it takes us to get there is the question. I don't think it needs to be real hasty, i.e., a month or two, but we do need to start discussing these things. And if a retreat is a place to do that, I think it needs to be done.
I'm not putting any timeline on it. If it takes us 6 months, that's fine. I just think it's important that we do it and that we get started on it. If we want to do it in a retreat, that's fine. If we want to have some other kind of special meeting to do it, that's fine. I just ask that we do it, that we get started on it, that we have the discussion.
Well, I'd like to, Madam Chair, I'd like you to think about setting a retreat date or a meeting date that we can discuss these things.
Okay, my interest is having this after we have decided on a new general manager, and we don't know when that will be, so sometime after that.
I don't understand why we need to wait for a new general manager. This will be our policy, and I don't really see the interplay between waiting for a new general manager for us to create a policy for how we function as a board.
Well, I saw all of it tying together in one retreat format.
Could you elaborate on that? I don't understand exactly what you're saying there.
Well, that we have a one-day retreat and talk about possibly other topics besides a policy, and to include our new general manager would make sense, so I would see all of those things happening at one time.
But we're not going to be able to formulate a board governance policy at a retreat.
Why not?
Well, because I would assume that it would take a little more discussion than that, and as Steve is saying, he wants to take his time to give us plenty of time to consider what we're proposing. I just think it would take a little more work than that.
So I think you're saying we can't do it in one day?
Well, I think that depends on how much time we want to spend in that day.
I don't think we can do it in one day.
But yeah, I don't either. I mean,
I guess I took from Steve's comment that would be, the retreat would be where we started the discussion, not necessarily where we finished the discussion.
yeah. I mean, I'm fine with starting the discussion in a retreat, but maybe I'm just dense, but I don't understand why we can't sit down as a board and just using this or something else as a starting place and say, what is our purpose? You might like what I have written here as A, but you may not like B. And so we can sit down and say, okay, I agree with this A, but I don't like B. C, I would like reworded, a little differently. It just takes time and a little effort to do that. And particularly at a retreat, if we're doing other things, I don't think it's really conducive to writing policy.
Okay.
Not that I'm opposed to starting the discussion then.
I don't know that we would necessarily try to write all the policy then, but I think
Right.
that's maybe where whatever meeting, whether it's retreat or whatever, we might think about using that as a vehicle to define the approach and talk about how we do it.
I could go with that.
Right, okay, so it could be part of a retreat after we have a new general manager and we can initiate the program or the process at that time.
I don't see the point in waiting.
Well, I think just the process of identifying a new general manager is taking a lot of time.
Yeah, we're having a lot of meetings. I can see quite a few meetings coming up here in the next 2 months.
It's an action-packed few months.
So board members can only do so much and allow so much time to address board matters.
Okay.
So just as a guesstimate, when would you think that we would be having a retreat? You know, August, September, October, next January?
I think possibly October, January, even better. So I don't see it as an immediate situation.
See, I've been trying to get this addressed since April, and it couldn't be on the April agenda because you didn't want it there, and on the May agenda, it couldn't be there because there was too much stuff, and on the June agenda, it couldn't be there because of the budget, which I agreed with, and so, you know, it finally is on the agenda. But then we're still talking about months down the road of actually doing anything with it. I don't understand the reluctance to address this.
Well, in terms of priorities, it's not at the top in my view. And so that's why it's farther out there.
Well, it's a board decision.
It's a major subject, and I can see discussion running on and on and on when we get to it, whatever kind of meeting we have. I do think it should be handled discreetly with one meeting apart from other meetings.
Okay. Well, for now, let's move on to item 12. Are there any general manager
You know, no, let's not move on yet. We really haven't said when we're going to address this. I would like something a little concrete as a commitment from this board to either say, forget it, I don't want to do it, or to actually set a time, even if it is September, to say in September we will address this issue. I mean, I've been put off long enough, and I'm not willing to just, okay, you know, we've let Dawn have her little piece here, and so we'll forget about it for another 6 months. So I would like a commitment as to when we will be meeting to address this topic.
Well, I think you raised a good point on how many board members actually want to develop a board policy.
Well,
for me, if we're going to do this in a retreat or something, perhaps we do it 30 days after the hiring of a general manager, or 45 days, or some date certain after we hire, if that's when it's going to be done. But let's say one thing or the other. I mean, we all beat around the bush here with whatever. Just say what you feel, and then we'll proceed. As Don said, if we don't want to do it, collectively we say we don't want to do it. If we want to do it down the road, collectively let's say that. Let's say something, but to sit here and just kind of throw a ball back and forth to each other, just. Okay. So my proposal is to do it, to start the discussion in a retreat 30 days after the hiring of a general manager.
Okay.
I think a GM would probably want to have some input or awareness of what the board was thinking about how it wanted to govern. So I tend to agree with Steve.
that's fine. as long as everyone can agree on that and we can make that commitment, that we will have a meeting and, 30 days after the GM is hired, we will be addressing board governance policy.
Let's have a motion from somebody if that's.
I guess I'm a little reticent to the 30 days.
Wishes to go.
New GM coming on board, he's going to have some things on his to get under his belt. So I wonder if we should make that at least pending the new GM input, or make it a little longer so he's got some runway to get comfortable in his new job.
I would agree. I was thinking something like 3 or 4 months after the new GM has started.
We can do it with 30 days, and if we decide that it needs to be changed, we can change it at that point. So it's your initiative. You can make the motion.
I make a motion that we have a meeting to discuss board governance 30 days after the hiring of a new GM.
The motion is to have it 30 days after or within 30 days after, or to set the date within 30 days after. Can you clarify it for us? Because I don't want this to end up being a problem.
To set the date within 30 days of the hiring of the new GM.
Okay, so just to make sure that we have that, the motion is 30 days after the hiring of the new general manager, that we would discuss setting a date to discuss.
No, set
okay.
a retreat to discuss the
board governance.
You changed the wording.
Okay, well, I was trying to do what I thought I heard. So perhaps you would like to state the whole thing, because
Well,
I don't think I've done.
what Don is saying is that her motion, as I understood it, was that a retreat date be set to discuss board governance within 30 days upon the hiring of the general manager.
Did you get that?
Yeah,
So
hiring
within
means
30 days, a meeting shall be set to her to have a retreat to discuss board governance.
But this, you say hiring, that means when he or she starts the job, right?
Yeah, 30 days after they are hired.
They start the job.
And if you wanted any farther outside that, the official date that they start, if you want to make it out longer than that.
So there needs to be a second.
I think we need to make sure what we're passing.
Kathy, do you want to read it back?
Set a retreat to discuss board governance policy within 30 days of hiring GM. That's what I've got.
So, and it's the process of setting the retreat that would happen within 30 days.
That's the way
Say yours again.
Process of setting the retreat to discuss board governance within 30 days of the GM.
So it's to set the retreat within 30 days of hiring him, not to have the retreat. Is what
No,
Kathy.
that's not what she said.
Okay, well, that's what Kathy read back.
No, that's what you interpreted it.
Let's go back to Ms. Hale. And
Right,
her
just
start
say what it's-
scratch and state motion.
You got to be an attorney here.
Okay. To have a retreat to discuss board policy within 30 days of hiring of the new GM starting the job here. Okay? Have a retreat to discuss board policy within 30 days of the new GM being hired.
Okay. So we have a motion.
Point of clarity again.
Okay.
The retreat would occur within 30 days after the new GM, he or she commences the job.
Start date.
Right.
Right. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Kathy, please call this by member.
Member Rosen.
No.
Member Baldwin.
No.
Member Hale.
Yes.
Member Ludwig.
Yes.
Member Mason.
Yes.
3-2.
Thank you. Okay, general manager's comments, please.
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Any old and new business?
Yeah, I have some. Surprise, surprise. A couple things I'd like to discuss, I guess. I don't know which says old first. I paid signed a check to E3 for the money that we owed them for the last work that they did for us. So we have now paid up E3 what we owe them. I would like for us to close out the contract with E3 rather than just having this open-ended deal with them. So I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but I would like to make a motion to close out the contract with E3.
I'll second it. Discuss it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think it's run its course between the Reed Smith firm in Pittsburgh and the E3 in San Francisco. We spent $50,000 and, if I'm not mistaken, $73,000 something for these consultants. Essentially what they've done is analyze our agreements with our KyMEA, our sister cities, giving us their opinions of our contracts and what our Kentucky municipalities have done in the way of organizing and getting underway with KyMEA. And for better or worse, I think that's run its course. And so I'm inclined to draw the line and say almost $125,000 was enough for that purpose. I don't want to spend any more.
Well, I guess my only comment would be is that it's not an open-ended contract. We have a spending cap on it now. We do have, other business that's coming up in front of us with the existing PPAs that we might want to leverage their experience with. They're the only subject matter experts that we have that are, working for us. So I think that insight and that subject matter expertise is proven to be very valuable to us and could prove to be valuable to us in the future.
But I think if we want to do that, we can then make a new contract with them in order to do it. And it can be discussed at that time. I don't think there's a point in having this open-ended contract with them. What we have asked them to do, they have done, and it's done. So we just need to close out that contract. If something else comes up in the future that we want a consultant to evaluate for us, we can hire them at that time.
Well, we did put that money into the budget so that we have it available to us as things come up, and it's already in the budget.
How much money was it, Dave?
I think the remaining amount was $5,300 and change.
Let me ask this question. Do we still have an outstanding contract with Reed Smith?
We do not.
No, Reed Smith is done.
I'm not sure how much as we look in the future, obviously the near future. I'm trying to understand, and I probably can't do it here, is understand what value $5,000 gives us toward what we may or may not need to know.
Well, when we considered the last work that they did for us reviewing the SEPA contract, that was like $1,000. So
how much?
It was $2,000 something.
Okay, so it was well under $5,000. So that having the money there to review the contract from a standpoint of energy, they don't do legal, but they do assessment of value of a contract.
And we already have all that. effort built up with them of knowledge of all the structures, knowledge of all the contracts and the inner workings. So there's a lot of efficiency in asking them these questions, because all the underlying contracts that shape the new ones that come down the road, they're already familiar with. So we don't have to repay for that learning with new agencies, with new organizations, nor would we have to go through another RFP process if we want to.
So having a small amount of money sitting in our budget doesn't hurt our bottom line in any way. It's a convenience for the board if we should want to consult on some issue.
Well, from my vantage point, I'm asking what $5,000 gives you. But I want to speak, I guess, hypothetically, and I guess I can look backward. When we took the KyMEA contract, when it was first laid down in front of you, what did E. Smith charge you just to look through the contract?
Well, I think we're talking about E3, but are you asking about Reed Smith or E3?
E3.
Okay. Well, we went out for an RFP and they came back with a quote.
I think it was 50 initially, and then another 19 or something like that.
So for them to look at for them to dictate the contract, the agreement, what did they charge us to look at the agreement?
They were hired after the board committed to joining KyMEA, so it was after the fact.
Okay, so I assume the first thing that they were asked to do was to review the agreement.
Well, all of them. They were asked to review the interlocal agreement, the underlying PPAs,
So did they detail out what each one of those activities cost?
I don't know how much we got some working detail as it went on, but they were all given to them as one unit. There wasn't.
Well, I guess my question, given that it's very possible, I guess that in the future that we could have another agreement coming down the pike. I'm just wondering what it would cost if E3 looked at it. Well, but if it's going to be $40,000 or $50,000, then I'm not.
Well, we have some indication from the SEPA contract they looked at. That was a couple grand.
But
we
they had already.
We have the solar PPA in front of us now. We're going to have a combined cycle PPA in front of us in the future.
I understand what we have, but I thought those things.
Right. But I think when they looked at the first contract, which is very large, and it was also setting up a whole organization, it was comprehensive, whereas anything that we would add later is quite small.
But they had already looked at the SEPA contract once. And so when we had them look at it again, that was looking at it for the second time.
I'm not certain on that.
Mr. Baldwin, something you said just made me think. Do you foresee wanting to use E3 to look at these renewable PPA? Because we're down to, the pricing on that is firm through August. I was just curious.
I think there's that potential. I mean, we've got the PPA now. We have no analysis in front of us, and they're the only resource we have to give us any kind of independent.
Just our energy experts that we pay, just all our experts we've relied on all down the line since we agreed to form the organization.
Our only resource.
We keep paying E3 to criticize us, to criticize our Kentucky organization, our Kentucky cities, and what they've agreed.
Well, I don't know that I'd call it criticism. It's notable that
you can't do anything to sue them.
It's notable that OMU decided to go another way from KyMEA, and in the presentation they gave, the analysis they did, and the conclusions they reached were that KyMEA was more expensive, KyMEA was higher risk.
E3 doesn't make our agreements.
And this is OMU. This is the founding member of KyMEA.
They're still in KyMEA, by the way.
Sure, but they're not taking power from it. So they have
the renewable PPA is out there for everyone, and I think OMU is.
It's my understanding they won't be taking that through KyMEA. They're merely participating in the purchase.
They discussed that at the meeting they held here. That you
regardless, the point was that it was not so much about that. It was that E3 is not just attacking KyMEA. Their opinions agree with what there's two internationally recognized consulting companies that have looked at it now, and they're concerned. They had similar concerns with it. We have an international law firm that's looked at it. We have a state law firm that's looked at it. Now we have the independent analysis from OMU, and they decided to go a different way from the combined cycle resource. And all of those folks agreed that it was higher cost, higher risk, and reduced local control.
I don't agree.
I don't either.
All of those folks did.
I don't agree.
Well,
But regardless, back to the
only
point.
place I was going, and I'm thinking out loud because you all were here and I wasn't. And if there's $5,000 left, my question was, and really I'd like all of y'all's opinion because I know it's going to be diverse, is that if we're looking at another agreement coming down the pike in a very short future, is it going to cost any more than $5,000 for them to look at it? If it's already there.
We'd have to ask them.
We could ask them.
What's the point of them looking at it? We're a member of KYMEA, we've got contracts, we've got our own, we've got analysts and experts, energy experts.
Here's
So what's the point of turning to E3 every time something comes along?
I understand where you're going, but the point is, if you want to call it procedural, they've made the point, because they're going to make the point of saying every municipal look at these things, which logically says they're asking you yay or nay, if they're asking you to look at it. Then, so I'm not trying to attack, in my thoughts, I'm not trying to attack KYMEA. I'm just saying if there are other perspectives out there, other viewpoints, because, I'm going to ask James and ask Hans to look at that too. But I'm just saying if there's someone out there that is an supposed expert, whether they were biased or not biased, I don't know, and you already have got the money allocated out there and it's not going to cost any more than that small amount to get them to look at it, I'm just saying, should we consider that?
I think the board's aware of this, but E3 could not exceed whatever that existing amount is unless the board voted to extend the contract. But you can still vote to close it. That's certainly within the board's parameters as well.
So, and that's kind of why I'm asking you all, because you all were here and have dealt with them and understand why E3, I guess, was engaged in the first place. But from my perspective, sitting here, I'm saying we've already allocated $5,000 left out there. Would it be practical to say, can you review whatever comes down the pike in this agreement for the $5,000 or less? And I mean strictly on that, and I don't need the criticism. I just need the analysis of what each paragraph in that in any contract might say. And that's, so I'm throwing it out. I'm kind of.
Well, I agree. I think that'd be a prudent thing to do.
I think that something we're forgetting is the contract for the PPA for renewables or whatever is between KyMEA and the company providing the power. We look at it to be able to tell our representative how we want them to vote. If we see something in it that we want changed, it's the same issue as when we were discussing the SEPA contract. We might want XYZ changed, but that means then that all of the other KyMEA members have to agree to that change because they are looking at the contract and approving it. And so when we have it say that, no, we don't like section, Article 2, Article 3, Section 2, then we have the other members of KyMEA that then have to agree that they want to change that, and then that has to then go back to the vendor. And so I think we get into this problem that we create for ourselves, that we have experts in the field that have put together this contract. We either trust them or we don't. If we don't trust them, then maybe we need to get new experts.
Well, I guess my point is, again, if you just take it from my perspective, just from a logical process point, they will come up with an agreement whenever. They're going to ship it back to each municipal for some reason. Now, if they thought it was just a rubber stamp, that it was just going to come back to them, and they may think that, but they're not sending it. They're sending it back because they need formal approval by each municipal, and they may be 95% sure that it's going to come back approved. But I don't know if it's in our interest not to at least try to understand what it says prior to. Now, the process of opposing it, the process of trying to change it, I haven't agreed, and I've told you all that. I haven't agreed with how we tried to change the others. But that doesn't mean you don't try to change it if you think it needs to be changed, or try to agree to convince others that it should be changed if it should be changed. Now, if it doesn't, and we can live with where it is, then we at least know what we don't like in it. But my point with this is, if this group is an expert in the field, and I guess all of y'all assume that they are before they started working with us, and you have $5,000 out there, then why wouldn't we not try to use that $5,000 for them to look at the whatever agreement that may be coming down the pike from KyMEA? That's, I don't have the history that y'all have, so I know I'm speaking differently, but I don't have to allocate 5. It's already there. It's not something I don't have to be proactive here. It's already sitting there. But if I did that, I'd want to be very strict in what I wanted them to do.
Well, if we're talking about having E3 or anybody else look at the PPA for renewables, then we better be making that motion tonight, because they don't have very long in which to do it.
That's kind of my point, is that it could be, and I'm speaking vaguely here. It could be very in a very short period of time. So I'm going to propose something out here, and
do we already have a motion in a second?
Yeah,
I've forgotten.
Ralph said.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
So
are you amending the motion?
Well, I'm just going to propose one. If it's okay with you, then if it's not.
So, James, do we have to vote on the motion that's active first?
Mr. Mason can ask Ms. Hale if she's willing to
ahead.
amend her motion.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm willing to listen to what you want to do.
That we instead of canceling the contract, that we would first ask E3 to review any coming power purchase agreement up to the point of $5,000 expense, and at that point, the E3 contract shall be ceased. From that contract between the Frankfort Plant Board and E3 will be ceased.
So are you saying that we'd use the $5,000 that's there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if it meant we'd have them look at this.
But I would be looking at it as it relates to the contract that perhaps could be coming. Not any tangents going on, well, what if run this scenario, run that scenario. Take whatever contract that we may be getting.
We've got it.
I thought it. Anyway.
I'm sorry?
No. Take whatever that's coming to us and analyze it and tell us what the impact is on us. Tell us what it's saying and what the impact that they see it could have on us. Positive, negative, neutral. I guess it's neutral, it's not impact, but positive but negative. And after they have up to 5,000, whatever the balance is, David, and after that, the contract between E3 and the Frankfort Plant Board shall be canceled.
that's the end of it anyway, so.
Well, no, I don't know, we can always go past that and people can extend things and all that, but the motion would from the board would say that its wishes are to that it shall be canceled at that moment.
So you're saying use up the money and then it's canceled?
Use up the money for the extent, for what I said, reviewing any document that comes, any agreement document relating to power that comes from KYMEA to us. Tell us and analyze it, tell us what it's saying and the impact it may have on us. And at the end of that job, the contract, and at the liquidation of that money, the contract shall cease. And all that's doing is giving, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, perhaps another perspective on a contract that could be coming down the road.
Mr. Mason, would it be possible that E3 would be directed to reach out and speak to KYMEA while analyzing the PPA? Because in the prior engagements, they did not speak to KYMEA at all.
That's not true, David. They spoke extensively with KYMEA, and we had 2 days of solid back-to-back meetings.
Not on all the meetings, so I just was
going back and forth with
Mr. Mason.
before there was a final report.
That's something.
I mean, if that's something that is acceptable, I mean, I don't, you know.
I guess my only concern would be is that if that back and forth communication ends up becoming so oppressive that it consumes the $5,000. I guess my thought would be similar to what we did the first time, where as E3 had questions, they reach out to staff and they reach out to KYMEA to get the responses to those questions.
Well,
they never reached out to us though.
Well, again, for me, and I think they will understand their first job. Their job is to analyze the agreement.
Correct.
And whatever they need to make that happen.
And whatever it needs to make that, because if they don't analyze the agreement, they shouldn't be paid. Because that is what we're asking them. So I guess we need to have a letter, if you accept the motion and amendment, that a letter should be written to say that stuff. But anyway.
Well, so possibly we send them the contract.
First of all, the motion hasn't been changed yet, so that will be presumptuous.
Right. I'm sorry, but I don't think I can agree. Simply because, well, let me just leave it.
Okay.
I think it's cleaner if we just vote up or down the motion that I have made, and then if you all want to make another motion to talk about what you're talking about, then you can make that motion. But for the motion that I've made, no, I'm sorry, Steve, I don't know.
I'm good. I'm
okay, what is that motion? Do we know?
Dawes?
Yes, please.
Motion to close out the E3 contract.
Okay. So we have a motion to close out the E3 contract. We have a second from Ralph. Please call us by member.
Member Rosen?
No.
Member Baldwin?
No.
Member Hale?
Yes.
Member Ludwig?
Yes.
Member Mason?
My answer is going to be contingent on me being able to make a second one. So mine is, what's no, I guess, okay.
Correct, your vote.
I'd like to make a second motion.
Okay.
So
motion failed, and now we're making a new motion.
That the balance of E3 money, whatever, 5,000, whatever it is, shall be used to do an analysis on whatever power agreement we have coming before us from KYMEA that tells us what it does and the impact that it has on us. And I'd like it to be a detailed analysis of paragraph by paragraph.
Okay, do we have a second?
Wait a minute, up into the $5,000. And that after the end of that, the contract between E3 and the Frankfort Plant Board shall cease, or whatever the legal term is.
What you said is fine.
Can I amend your
I'm
motion?
good, I'm not, okay.
James, can it be amended before it's seconded?
We need a second.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to amend it to include in the motion that no board member will have contact with E3 while they are evaluating the contract, that any contact with E3 be handled through David or his representative, and that they have the, that they contact KyMEA for any questions or input that they have.
You said can or may? May?
They may. And they have the report back to us when our board packet.
Within 2, well, it's hard. Can we say that?
I don't know what you were saying. Are you asking about what Ms. Hale said?
Well, that they have the report back to us.
Within 2 weeks of the request.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Assuming something like that gets passed, it's good, E3 will have to let you know whether it's feasible for them.
Then if they can't, the contract will be ceased. Yeah, maybe I should add that to it. If they cannot satisfy, they cannot satisfy those conditions, then the contract is ceased. It goes back to what you're saying.
Do you want to give them a little more time than 2 weeks? I mean, somebody could be on vacation and take that long to.
Well, I was thinking about our time.
But we've got a contract to tell our KyMEA representatives in our August meeting. So we need to be able to get their report.
Well, do we have the contract now? Do we have the completed
Yes,
contract?
ma'am. It was.
KyMEA?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
And so, we need, if we're going to have E3 give us advice on the contract, then they need to be able to give it to us in time for us to be able to read it, absorb it before our August meeting.
Okay, the August meeting is August 21st.
So I'd like, I think I'm good with 2 weeks.
I'm okay with saying 2 weeks. I just wouldn't want it to be a hard stop. I'd like to be able to, if it turns out to be 3 instead of 2, I think that's still in the ballpark of usability for us. So,
but just leave it at 2, and then we can play.
As long as it's not a hard stop and everything just goes away, I think that's fine.
Yeah, but the expenditures can't be over the 5.
Sure, yeah. And the hard stop on the money's one thing, but the hard stop on the date's not.
You might have to go back and look at the video.
Wait, I have a question. Well, the first question is, do you accept the modifications to your?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. So, Kathy, if you can read back roughly what you have. Well, just so we know what we're voting on, isn't that wise?
The original motion, and please excuse my note-taking here. Balance of E3 funds used for analysis of whatever contracts come from KyMEA, tell us what it does, what impact it has on FPB, paragraph by paragraph. At the end, the E3 FPB contract shall cease. Dawn seconded. Then we had the amendment was no board member to contact E3 while they are in the evaluation process, that the process should go through David Denton or his representative, that they, being E3, may contact KyMEA if they have questions, and then report back within 2 weeks.
Very good, Kathy.
And
Do we want to amend that 2 weeks, or how do we adjust if they say it's going to take them 3?
One thing to remember is you do have a hard stop. You have to give KyMEA an answer one way or the other.
I can
You have
make
to
a
vote.
suggestion,
Please.
if I'm not out of line, but the agenda deadline for that 21st meeting will be August the 10th. So that is from today, 1, 2, 3.5 weeks.
Does that work?
That would be
What-
when we would need stuff.
What about 2.5 weeks? That way we can get it before that.
well, by getting it August 10th, we don't meet until the 21st.
Well, you want to be able to look at it before you get here, don't you? What?
Well,
that's 11
the
days.
10th from the 21st.
2.5 weeks?
The
That's
10th?
the 3rd. 2.5 weeks would be August the 3rd.
Whatever y'all decide.
Well-
I think the agenda planning meeting is reasonable.
Right, August 10th. Why don't we just say August
It's not my
10th?
decision, I'm just throwing it ideas out.
What did you?
August 10th.
10th would be our agenda deadline.
That's okay.
August 10th.
Right.
So
And,
we're going to take out 2 weeks.
and we don't meet for 11 more days after that.
We're going to say
We'll be
bye.
meeting, you just won't be meeting on that.
You meet them, so
Yeah.
you can count on it.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion, we have it clarified, we have a second. Please call this by number.
Member Rosen?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Member Hale?
No.
Member Ludwig?
No.
Member Mason?
Yes.
Passes
Okay.
3-2.
Thank you. Motion passed. We're ready to move into closed session. I have one question concerning this. Has there been anything new on this question we'd be discussing?
I just would like to get the board's feedback on, we've had, kind of waiting for a response, but we don't have any. It's up to the board if you want to have a closed session
Well,
or not.
this is an item that we've discussed twice now. I think we should just wait longer, is my opinion. This is the Marilla question. Okay, I see no reason. I think, is there motion to close the meeting? Okay, we have motion to close the meeting. A second?
Does that mean adjourn?
Adjourn.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Just want to be clear.
Okay, I'm sorry. I should just say motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carried.